Over to you, Sammoy.
Okay, yeah, thank you. Anyone else with any thought? So, yep, as the title states, we're going through Gamergate, and the question was, what's one word that comes to your mind when you hear of the term Gamergate? Anyone else with any other word or phrases?
Cultural war.
Yep, cultural war.
Sexism.
Sexism, yep.
Scandal came to my mind. Watergate. I think they get the term from Watergate, which was a political scandal in the 1960s with Nixon.
Yeah.
Gamergate. Go on.
Okay, so it's more like a discussion. So we're gonna have different persons reading. So I did post in an article in the group that we're gonna go through, but first we're just gonna go through the few introductory slides that I have here.
Can we also say it's a form of indoctrination?
What did you say, CJ?
Can we also say Gamergate? I mean, it started off with a kind of form of indoctrination, isn't it? Until it achieved what it wanted to.
Yep.
Because nobody knew what it was really all about.
Yep, correct. So I'm gonna have someone read this. So this is just explaining what it actually is in more details. We have already gave certain phrases or words that come to our mind. Now we're gonna look at this. This is just coming from Wikipedia. Who is our first reader for this morning?
I can read.
Okay, Leon. And bear in mind that when you read, we're gonna discuss what you read and if you can explain it also.
Try. What? Okay then. Shall I read just the first sentence?
If you should just read the first sentence. Oh, if you want to take it that way, you can.
The first two. I'll just read the first two.
Okay, no problem.
Gamergate was an online harassment campaign initially conducted through the use of the hashtag Gamergate that promoted sexism and anti-progressism in video game culture. Beginning in August 2014, the campaign targeted women in the video game industry, notably game developers Zoe Quinn and Brianna Wu, and feminist media critic Anita Sakishan. The harassment campaign included doxing, threats of rape, and death threats. The Gamergate is viewed as a right-wing backlash against progressivism. I can't say the word, man. Progressivism is a way of thinking that focuses on social progress. Yeah, I'll stop there.
Okay. And what did you get?
So it seems like it's an online game designed to promote sexism and this anti-progressivism in video gaming. Yeah. So a game to use to promote sexism, basically, in a nutshell.
Anyone else?
Okay, we see that it's targeted women, and that there are sorts of threats of rape, and that there is a short video about it too, I think, on YouTube, and yeah, where they have like their addresses, yeah, and just threatening them. Yeah.
There's also online harassment. which promoted the sexism and progressivism in video game culture. So there is a harassment going on about that. I don't know how they panned it out, but because I haven't really watched any of the videos on it.
Videos on what? Exactly.
I can hardly hear you.
Sorry, videos of what did sorry, I'm too far away from the computer. Videos of what are you saying that you didn't watch?
It says it is an online harassment.
Yeah.
Initially, which promoted sexism, but I can't tell you how it was done because I haven't watched any of the videos, on it, the video game culture on it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So we're gonna go more into exactly how it unfolded. But you can watch videos of the harassment. I've watched some of them. Some of them was not so good because they just basically criticize I think it was especially Zoe Quinn criticized her of her game because her game that she made was about depression, how to help persons who are going through depression. But many people did not like the game that she created, so they were going up against it. And also, yeah, we'll go further into it, the different details of what took place. Did you want to continue, Leon?
I suppose you could say it was more male dominated as well, wasn't it? These games, it was sort of a male dominated sort of culture.
Yeah.
That's why we've got these women in, and obviously they were game developers, and I suppose they were developing the games that they didn't like because they liked all war games and killing type of games and all that sort of stuff. Because I was looking into the word what doxing meant, and doxing means that what they tended to do to get back at these women, and it was a male dominated sort of a game thing. They attacked the women, and they would find out their private information. They would email them and harass them that way, and threaten them. So it began to become sort of very dangerous if you didn't sort of follow their way of. I think it's just because it was just male dominated, and so yeah, it became very dangerous. So that's why it says there was the harassment thing is the doxing, and where these women, especially I can't remember her name now, one of them received the threats and debts so much so that they even found out where she lived.
Zoe Quinn.
Yeah.
So they kind of wanted to change how Zoe and the other game developers wanted to change the way how games were that time. Because games, how they make, well, the videos I've watched, how they made games with women being the target. So they would, beat on women or, harass women in the various video games that I was watching, and they wanted to change the world of video games. So they are fighting against them for trying to do that. Leon, you want to pick up?
Okay. Game. 1 second. Gamergate proponents, Gamergaters, have stated that they were a social movement, but they had no leaders or manifesto and statements claiming to represent Gamergate have been inconsistent or unfounded. Gamergate has falsely accused Quinn of an unethical relationship with journalist Nathan Grayson, and more generally claimed there was unethical collusion between the press and feminists, progressives, and social critics. I'm not too sure what you're saying, to be honest.
Okay, no problem. I think what's her name? Not Debbie was touching on it a little bit, that this started not how they started, but actually what they were accusing Quinn of, that she was dating a journalist. So they were finding stuff to accuse her of, and they were just criticizing, trying to find means and ways to criticize her or to have backlash against her. And she's the one that they found her information and posted her where she lived online so they could fight against her. Anyone else want to expound on what this is saying?
So, Sammoy, did they see the game? I'm assuming they saw the game because it says in the middle a right-wing backlash against progressivism. So they saw the game as progressive, and they didn't like that. The right wing. What do you know exactly what they didn't like about it?
So
I don't want to preempt it. I'm just trying to understand why they're so critical.
well, from the videos I've watched, I just see them criticizing the way that the game is. So the game that she made, it was about depression. It was just like words and stuff talking about persons who are going through depressive state and what they should do and stuff. So they didn't like the type of game from what I've watched and see. I don't know much details about it, to be honest, because I was just trying to understand what this game is, because I'm like, I really don't understand. But yeah, like, yeah.
I think she based the game on her own experience, because she was
Yeah.
depressed herself. So she was depressed herself, so that's how she made the game up. It was on her own experience.
Yeah.
I'm assuming it's because she's a woman that they don't like it, but I didn't know whether there's more to it than, because why would they be against people being helped with depression? I wasn't sure that was a kind of, is that to do with progressivism? I'm just wondering myself. I don't know.
I think basically what I heard a lot, I watched some videos like 7 years ago type of videos, and they were just commenting on her being a woman, and they call her the B word and all sort of word. They were, and they would criticize how women love to go and cry when they're depressed or whatever. So they were criticizing, like, a lot regarding women and stuff like that.
So they're making depression a woman's problem.
Yeah, like it's women's big issue, and they love to go away and cry and stuff.
Okay. Yeah.
So we're just gonna continue. So this is Zoe Quinn, Brianna Wu, and Anita Sarkeesian. These are some pictures of them. Did I read this already? Okay, this is continuing. Someone else can pick up. Would you like to pick up, Emma?
Yeah. So what is Gamergate? These claims were widely dismissed as trivial conspiracy theories, groundless or unrelated to actual issues of ethics in gaming. Gamergate supporters have frequently denied the harassment took place or falsely claimed that it was manufactured by the victims. Gamergate is described as a culture war over cultural diversification, artistic recognition, feminism in video games, social criticism in video games, and the social identity of gamers. Many supporters of Gamergate oppose the increasing influence of feminism on video game culture. Okay. Gamergate led figures both inside and outside the gaming industry to focus on methods of addressing online harassment, ways to minimize harm and prevent similar events. So what I'm getting from that is that the people who supported Gamergate, who were anti this video game, dismissed the claims that they were doing anything wrong, basically saying it was false, saying that the harassment didn't take place, that the victims made it up, and that, but they're saying in this paragraph that it was a culture war, it's a culture war, and it's over feminism basically being in video games. And that's, I suppose that's what is cultural diversification, is the fact that the culture of games is male. And so it's becoming more female. They don't like that it's a platform for feminism. And they don't want to, I presume, artistic recognition. They don't want a woman to be recognized for making games. Social criticism in video games and the social identity of gamers. So, and then they're bringing her background into that to defame her, I guess, trying to say that she did something that wasn't legitimate behind the scenes to get the game promoted, because they just hate the whole fact that it's a woman doing it, that it's a woman's issue, that, well, seemingly they label it as a woman's issue. Many supporters of Gamergate oppose the increasing influence of feminism. So it's all about feminism in video game culture. So I guess that's mirroring what's happening in society, that people don't like the rise of feminism because it threatens men. And this is it's like a mini world in the gaming world of what's happening in real life.
Yeah.
So can I ask a question? So were the women who invented, are you saying the women invented these games?
This game specifically that she got in trouble for, yeah, Depression Quest, whatever it's called. Something about
so why, I mean, I thought they invented games where they were actually winning in the videos, whatever game they were creating.
That was the nature of games, but she was creating a different nature of game. Like when male create games, they create it like, you know, to suit their own nature, right? But she was changing the nature of games. It was different. It didn't look like a game, to be honest, when I watched it, but she was just trying to change the nature of games, because games will naturally have, I don't really play games, but the ones that I watch as examples, they would naturally have like they being in stripper clubs and all sorts, and women being targets, and you know, they enjoying women and stuff like that.
Right, okay. Thank you.
Any other points or questions before we move on?
Yeah, in a lot of games, what I've played over the years, for example, let's say like car games, you'll see women as, you know, the half naked ones, but, you know, with the flag when the car's about to race, or drop the flag, and they'll be seen as like an object, like a sexual object, like a attractive sexual object, half naked in front of the cars, posing, taking pictures, and people will kind of whistle to them and all sorts. So they're seen as an object, a sexual object or a sexual figure in the game. And then, yeah. And I think that's in a lot of games. It's just sexual objects, really. What you see playing, yeah.
I'm glad you bring that point, because they also used to use women standing in front like of game machines. They would use women to take picture in front of the game machine to promote the games, half naked. So yeah, that woman was just like an object for advertisement for the games.
There was also a game on Gamergate, I think, where it was about raping women, and it was up for 2 weeks before they took it down.
Sorry, you break up a bit, Natalie, while you were talking. There was some shuffling.
Yeah, it's a lot worse than that. There was actually a game up there about raping women, going to rape women, I think they took 2 weeks for them to take it down, and they were
Oh,
told to. It's a lot worse than it used to be.
mm.
So isn't there a standard they have to meet, you know, in order for those games to be passed?
That I wouldn't know. Would you know, Leon? Because I'm not a gamer. Sorry.
What was the question?
CG is asking if there's a standard persons have to meet in order to create games.
I, s- I- I
And
don't
for
know.
it to be passed. You know, like anything, if you make a toy,
Well, they
Yeah.
do have,
it's got a certain standard to it in order to be passed off. Like, is it safe for children? No
they
Oh
do
gaming,
yeah, I
age
think so. Yeah.
they,
things like that. So
yeah.
wasn't that the same with video games?
Yeah, I think it's all age approved and all sorts. And if
They
it's
have age
safe,
restrictions.
yeah.
Oh,
But people
age
bypass
approved.
the age restrictions. You know, they try to get on when they're not 18, whatever they are. And even 18, is it okay to have an 18, you know, a game about rape, even if it is age restricted to over 18? Is it even okay to have a game about that? And most of these games are violent men, aggressive, domineering, you know, war games, which are bloodthirsty and violent. And then the women in them are, as Leon said, are portrayed as sex objects. So the whole thing is just promoting a very aggressive, misogynistic attitude. And I think that's probably what she's trying to address with this depression game, is what they're seeming to trying to change the culture of gaming, which the men don't want. Or at least at the bottom it said they're addressing online harassment ways to minimize harm and prevent similar events. So at least they're looking at trying to, as an industry, focus on methods of addressing that. But I think it just reminds me of the porn industry. It's very similar. It makes billions of dollars and it's male dominated and it's violent sexuality. And it's promoted because they make loads from it, but they could shut it down overnight if they wanted, because they have that control of the internet, but nobody wants to. And it's the same with gaming. Look at the billions of dollars gaming is making. And it feeds into that male dominated culture.
Yeah, I'm going to say, and it's it's interesting to understand who started this in the first place. And if you look back in 2005, it was actually Steve Bannon who started up the firm called IGE, and he was the one who made. So I'm just reading. He made a video called or game called World of Warcraft, and he did that in 2017. He got Goldman Sachs to invest 60 million in this game, and the game was called IGE. Of course, we know that he's pro-Trump, don't we?
Yep, thanks for bringing that point, Debbie. So we're gonna move on to the next slide. So this is just backdrop of essentially some of the things that we've already discussed. But someone can go ahead and read it still. Magda, are you there? Or let me see who. Okay, go ahead.
How did it all begin? This all kicked off on a very specific, if no less troubling issue. In 2013, an independent game designer named Zoe Quinn released a free game called Depression Quest. Depression Quest isn't a game. In the way we traditionally conceived of it, it's more a story or a piece of interactive art which, as it unfolds, tells the story of a young adult's depression. Yeah, so you kind of like covered about Zoe that she did do this game. Which is kind of like a story. Yeah. Um, so I would like to also add, so we saw before that it's a cultural thing against progressivism, and So it's like white dominated males against feminists. It's also racial based, because I think I saw video where was video about Star Wars, which is quite well-known game, and they put their woman of color, and she received so much criticism. There was a black guy, and he was saying that he received so much criticism that he was thinking about suicide. Um, and yeah, especially it's a misogynist movement, and it's just crazy that they can uh, anonymously attack people, threaten people, and police still doesn't recognize in it, doesn't do anything with it. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for that point. Yeah, it's quite funny. Like, I didn't understand why they were so much attacking her in relating, because people on a whole, why wouldn't you want to overcome stuff? But as we've said in the beginning, like it's just it's just not their type of nature, and they're so much against women, so that's why they were fighting hard against it. It continues with the story, Maga.
Some people were really into depression gas, including several video game critics. Other players took issue with what they considered the artistness, the non-game gaminess of the game. Remember, this whole debate essentially boils down to the identity. What counts as gaming and what doesn't? In either case, the stage was already set for some kind of major meltdown when, in mid August, one of Gwen's ex-boyfriend claimed in a series of disturbingly,
Disturbingly.
thank you, intimate and very long blog post that she had cheated on him with several men in the gaming industry, ostensibly to get ahead in her career.
So we can see that people were into the game. Um, so it says other persons took issue with it, other players, because they didn't like the artists, they didn't like the artistiness, the non-gameness of the game, because it didn't, as in the beginning it states, it didn't look like a game. It was not, it was just some writings. um and then you find now her boyfriend, sorry, ex-boyfriend, um start attacking her, and I think the post that he made was like over 9,000 words, they say. He was writing a lot about various relationships that he claimed that she cheated on him with several different men in the gaming industry. So he was also attacking her and causing the problem to be bigger, basically.
So, question, did she actually make that game to go against what the other games were doing? I mean, to show women in a different light.
The game didn't specifically talk about women. It just more like it talk about depression. So I'm not sure how to answer your question. Anyone else will be able to answer.
I would say, CG, that the lady actually made that game on her own experience. When you read back about it, she actually made up the game because of her own experience, because of her own issues with depression, and her career was a game developer. That's what her career was. So she made up this game to talk about her own depression. That's how she made the game up. And whereas I know that it's sort of male dominated, and perhaps the male didn't like it, because if you think about it, these type of girls are typical white males, right? And they see these games as some kind of way of escape, and I don't suppose that game that she created sort of fitted into what they were used to or wanted.
Oh, thanks, Debbie.
Okay, so that answers your question. Okay, good. So we're gonna go to the article now that I posted in the group. So we see that
Sammoy,
oh, sorry, go ahead.
I just wanted to mention something what they just said. It's more about men being jealous and threatened by women. Men see themselves as the victims on this site on Gamergate, and they didn't probably like the way the depression brought attention to women. I think it's all about men being the victims again. So I just wanted to make that point.
Okay, no problem. So this also took place in 2014 and about games. Why are we talking about it now or today? That's a question. Anyone want to answer?
I was reading back about it, Sammoy, and I have looked at a presentation, and I found out that Steve Bannon was behind this game thing. If you look back at it in 2005, he started up a gaming industry in Hong Kong, and it was called Breitbart, B-R-E-I Bart, Breitbart. And he, when you read about it, he wanted to start this games thing because there's a lot of money in it, and so he borrowed $60 million from Goldman Sachs to start this company. And I think so that then it was actually founded in a couple of years after that. And so he started, it was a company that started growing up, and he had a share, and I think the Breitbart was, I can't remember the person's name now, but the name Breitbart came from somebody who was an executive on this business, Andrew somebody, I think it was, well, Andrew Breitbart, I think it was Andrew, but it's something Breitbart, and that's how the name came about when he opened his company. The company was actually, the gaming company was actually based in Hong Kong. And basically what happened with that, that game that I was telling you about, World of Warcraft, it all started that particular game that he made up. And I think it was to do with, the part of the game was you had to, I think it was to do with getting countries or getting gold and getting businesses. I don't know the ins and outs of the game, but basically you had to, gold was the way of buying into a company, or getting ahead in this game. And I think what happened was he called them typical ruthless white males who just wanted to use these games as a way of escape. So what they did was they didn't particularly like the game. To put a long story short, they didn't particularly like the game and the ethics that he used in the game. So there was people who actually complained about it. And so because of these complaints, he became bankrupt. Basically, he lost the business. So what he wanted to do then was or how to get around it. He wanted to sort of harness these particular groups, towards politics. This is how he was thinking of using these white males towards. He was thinking of a way to harness this, to use them towards politics, and I think that's what he did. I think he sort of, I think he started the company. I don't know how it progressed from there, but that's basically what he did.
Debbie,
Yeah, sorry.
what Breitbart was a news outlet.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, it was.
It wasn't a gaming company.
Yeah. Sorry, yeah, that's what I meant to say. Sorry. Yeah, it was a news place, and that's how he brought up. Sorry, beg your pardon. And that's how he brought up to use these males to harness their aggression towards, and try to talk them towards politics. and because he saw it as some kind of powerful force, and he wanted to bring this to the fore. So that's why I think that's where he. And I think that the Breitbart news company was a news company. It was a far right news company actually, and I think Bannon became chairman of this company in 2012 because Andrew Breitbart, who was the executive chairman, he died, and so he took on this. And I think this is that's right. It became nationalist. That's right. I think there's something like that, but I don't know the rest of it after that. Sorry.
Not sure. I don't know the details. Anyone want to add to what Debbie was saying?
About what, sorry?
More details as it relates to Steve Bannon and his involvement with Gamergate.
I think Gamergate. Yeah, when he started working with Trump, he let go of that. But I think what your slide's saying here is Elder Test mentions that Gamergate in 2014 led to obviously interfering with the election of Trump, and also I think she mentioned January 6th as well. And something interesting that Hillary Clinton said, she said the de facto merger between Breitbart and Trump campaign represents a landmark achievement for the alt-right. Hillary Clinton said in 2016 campaign speech, a fringe element has effectively taken over the Republican Party. So that was interesting.
Yeah, what you said is correct. In relation to this, have correlation to January insurrection and also Trump campaign. Any other?
So what was his
relation-
agenda, Steve? What's his name?
Steve Bannon?
Yeah.
Steve Bannon made efforts to attract these angry, abusive gamers, to radicalise them to right-wing nationalism.
Right, thank you. Was this done before the elections, Donald Trump elections?
Yes.
Okay, so thanks for answering that question, Debbie and Natalie. Now we're gonna go to the article. I posted it in the group. Anyone had a look at it?
Yeah.
So can we all pull it up and go through it? Or should I put it up here? Let me see if I can get it.
To post it in the group, in the chat.
Yep, I did. Stop sharing.
I can post it in the chat thread, but the link.
Sorry, what was that? Oh, you can post the link in the group. Okay, give me.
Yeah, I just posted it in the chat, but I don't know if you were trying to open it on your screen.
Yeah, I was trying to. Let me try to share again. Okay, so we're not going to go through the entire script. We're just going through a little bit of it, just to get more understanding. So I have something needs to go. So who else is there? you be able to read or
Yeah, of course. In the wake of the storming of the US Capitol on January the 6th by Trump supporters, bystanders on social media had plenty to say about the root causes and contributing factors that may have led to this flashpoint. Among these was Gamergate, the year-long harassment campaign from 2014 to 2015 that eventually became subsumed into the greater rise of the all-rights movement online. Several viral threads positioned that the far-reaching watershed movement was a crucial precursor to everything that took place in Washington, D.C. this week.
So what are they saying here in Dubai?
I'm just reading. Okay, so it mentions. Give me a sec, Sammoy, bear with me.
That's all right.
All right, so look. So it emphasizes the whole storming of the US Capitol. It then mentions the root causes and contributing factors, and that's what I was trying to look into. I was trying to contemplate the root causes and contributing factors. That's what I was really thinking about.
Okay.
You say about the root causes that may have led to this occurring. Among these was Gamergate, the year-long harassment campaign. Sorry, can you skip me? Sorry, I'm still thinking about this.
Okay.
The root causes are in the next paragraph.
Yeah. Oh, I should have let you continue. You want to continue reading to find more information as it relates to this?
You're very quiet, Sammoy. I'm assuming it's the paragraph you just skipped you want me to read.
Sorry. Sometimes the computer, and I'm not remembering that I should speak directly.
No, it's fine.
But, okay. So yeah, you can continue there and see if it builds on the point that you're trying to understand.
As many have pointed out, Gamergate was by no means the beginning of the rise in extremism. The fault lies with a broad cocktail of factors ranging from centuries of racism to decades of neoconservative grassroots organizing, to the rise of conservative media and online echo chambers, to internet recruitment by actual white supremacists, and much more. Do you want me to continue?
Yeah, just read this last one. I'm right here.
Still, Gamergate was arguably a watershed movement and learning experience for many future Trump supporters. As a movement, it showed the trend towards systemized online harassment and increased ideological polarization that emerged in the latter half of the 2010 era. Word it that way.
Did that help or?
Yeah, it helped, but it did help. It kind of went into it a bit more. Yeah. But I had just forgotten the point I was going to make now.
Oh, sorry.
That's not your fault. So it mentions it was by no means the beginning of. So looking at extremism, fault lies. So I'm thinking back to the root causes and issues. So look, bystanders on social media plenty to say about the root causes and contributing factors Then we read further down about extremism. But
Or do you have it looking at it, or should I scroll down? Sorry.
yeah, if you could scroll down, sorry.
Is it there?
Okay.
Right there?
Yeah, it's many point going. So is it let me see if I've understood this. It's saying to do with the elections, Gamergate was a contributing factor.
Yeah.
But by no means was it the incentive for it. It's just another kind of group that contributed to it.
Yeah.
Contributing to the far right movement. And then it just kind of repeats and enlarges, goes into specific things that contributes to extremism. Like it's you know, a broad cocktail of factors ranging from centuries of racism to decades of neoconservative grassroots organizing. And what is it? I just want to know, what does it mean by grassroots?
Grassroots.
Yeah, I was gonna have a quick look at that. I'm not really sure what that means.
I think where it started.
Is its origin? Is that what it's saying? It's origin.
Yes, its origin.
The most basic level of an activity or organization, what ordinary people regarded as the main body of an organization's membership.
I guess it's where it started, like to show like grassroots is on the ground.
The most basic level of an activity or organization. Yeah, the foundation. Could another word be the foundation then?
Yeah.
Okay. A neoconservative foundation organizing the rise of.
So neo-debate means revived form of conservatism. So it's returned to it.
Return to conservatism, neoconservative.
Neo is a revived form of it, yeah. It's kind
So
of, it's new, but it's not new in that sense. It's been done before, but it's a new version of it. But it's really, it's going back to conservative traditional values.
So are they saying they were liberal before then? Or whatever kind of group they were before, if they're going back to conservatism?
No, I think what I'm getting from that is the stress that it's decades or years of these people who are at a traditional conservative level organizing themselves. I think that's the point, that they're coming together now, these far right believers. They're being mobilized to come together. So there were always far right believers out there, or what you might call, I think, neoconservatives. They're kind of going back to traditional values, but they are now mobilizing.
Neo-Nazi.
Yeah, so it's Nazis coming together. They're really Nazis. They're neo-Nazis because they're Nazis in our time, not in the original time period. But they're coming together to do something, to the rise of conservative media and online echo chambers. So it's all this rise of conservative, what we call right-wing factions connected to racism and white supremacy.
So what's the overall point between the US elections and Gamergate then? They were just a contributing factor to the extremism.
No, I think it's not US elections. I think the article started with January storming. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
you're
storming the US Capitol. Sorry, that's what I meant. Sorry, the US Capitol.
Yeah, that storming of the Capitol building. What led to such a drastic event is a toxic kind of combination of all these things. So Gamergate's a big part of that, but it wasn't the only thing. But it was part of what led people to mobilize and storm the Capitol building.
Okay.
It gave fuel to the fire. I think that's what it's kind of, I'm getting from it.
Yeah, I was also thinking about it because I don't know that much about it. It was just this week I stumbled across a presentation. I said, okay, let me watch it and still let me get some more information as it relates to this. So as it relates to Gamergate, what exactly, how did it exactly have involvements with the January 7? Because my brain's a bit confused. Right now I'm not thinking straight. Sorry, yeah, my question must probably didn't come out that good. But I was trying to understand exactly if there was some games that they were playing, but if there was some relation to that too, but I didn't know. But this article did give me some ideas. But I was just wondering also if there was some games in it to Gamergate's type of stuff. I don't know. or it's just the coming together of these groups? It's not so much games involved in it, because that's what the article talks about, them coming together, but not so much about games. So I was just wondering if game was
The way they
involved in
think.
it.
It's the way they think, isn't it? The
Yeah.
ideology.
Okay, so it's just the thinking. It's not so much games involved in it. Okay.
Started off, well, never started off with the games, but it increased, isn't it, with the games?
Yes, the game movement, the people who involve in that movement, you know, the Gamergaters. Yeah, they call them the Gamergaters. Okay. Is that any clearer for you, or are you
Yeah,
still?
that's
Oh, okay.
cleared a lot.
Okay, brilliant. Now we're gonna just move on. We only have like 30 minutes, so let me just can probably read 2 or 3 more paragraphs. Natalie, do you want to pick up, or you're not able to read?
So where are we up to?
We're at as it was happening.
As it was happening, many members of the media were quick to dismiss it, sparked by a single blog post published in August 2014. Gamergate was still in full swing when an editor asked me, as a reporter who covered it since the very beginning, to write a recap of it. Near the end of that year, the editor wanted a piece of that framed the entire event in a past tense, even though the hashtag was still going strong. The women it targeted were still being harassed, and the supporters were planning offline actions to take place at upcoming Geek Up conventions. What, you want me to say something about this bit?
Yep, if you have anything, if you don't, that's fine.
Not quite sure, but I think as the time went on and probably went into 2015, people thought that, you know, Gamergate was forgotten about, and I think it wasn't, and you know, they were starting to, you know, these men were starting to sort of go to conventions, and women were still being harassed, and it was carrying on. I think that's all I get from it.
Yep, so people were thinking of that being of the past, but like you said, there were still actions taken against women who were the main targets, and they wanted to take actions towards these people. They had some, I don't know what geek convention is, but probably some conventions was happening.
Yeah, and I think they still use the hashtag Gamergate as a way of being anti-feminist, you know, to harass women, and they see it as quite powerful because it sends a message of what they're about against women.
Yeah. Next paragraph. Magda, you there? Would you be able to read?
Yes. Soon after I recapped it, other publication wrote about Gamergate as if it were more or less over too. One writer predicted that 2015 would be the year everyone forgot about Gamergate, noting that it is still around as a Twitter hashtag and forum topic, but the relevance is waning from its peak in the fall. That's going to keep happening. So yeah, we see here that it's just still happening, that it's still so strong, that the hashtag is still so used. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's still not a thing of the past. It's, yeah, like we're studying it now. It's not something that has been forgotten out of the minds of people. So it plays a pivotal role in history. Debbie?
Yes.
Would you be able to read? Sorry, the two paragraphs. No, if you can.
Okay. Harassment and misogyny.
No, it's here. Sorry, that did not.
Beg your pardon.
Sorry.
That did not keep happening, but the media's insistence that Gamergate would end helps explains its endurance and why the movement ultimately coalesced into the larger alt-right movement that partially fueled the election of President Trump. Yeah. Right, okay, so it did not keep happening. That did not keep happening. So in other words, that when it says that did not keep happening, what was the previous, can I just have a look at the previous thing? The previous sentence.
Sorry. So they were saying that
they didn't think they're going to be around.
Yeah.
So that's what it means that didn't happen. So obviously, it seems like Gamergate obviously gained some kind of strong influence there, in the fact that it was. For the media's insistence that Gamergate would end helps explain endurance. So obviously, it's saying the media insisted that the Gamergate would end, which it didn't. And why the movement obviously coalesced into a larger. And so what happened was it sort of grew into this larger right wing sort of movement that helped. In other words, that it says partially fueled, so it helped the election of President Trump. And you think, well, how did it do that? Because it was, sort of nationalist, conservative. Those are the sort of aspects within Gamergate, was that they were nationalist, and they were pro-Trump. They were, let me look into it. They were sort of, because this is what Bannon brought them in for, or brought them into. What else would I say? It was mostly white male.
Sorry, you're a bit low.
Oh, sorry. I'm just thinking.
Oh, you're thinking.
I'm thinking out loud. I think. Yeah, I think that basically they were saying that they thought that this Gamergate would end, but it didn't, and it largely grew, and it was because it was right wing. The movement was partially used for the election of President Trump, and when you look and you think to yourself, well, where did it come from in the first place? Well, it came from Steve Bannon. When you look at it, when he started up the gaming thing anyway, and of course he was right wing, he was pro-Trump. So when his business failed, he wanted to radicalize these white males to push them into politics, and that's what he did. He used some of them to do that. So that's how that particular movement came to be used to support Trump, because of the things that it represented, which was against feminism, nationalist, misogyny, and all those type of things. So that's what I think that's about. That's hopefully.
Okay. We've understood this paragraph, so I'll skip that one.
Oh, I thought that paragraph was quite helpful. Sammoy.
Oh, this one.
If you never really understood what Gamergate was to begin with.
Oh. Okay, go ahead and read it.
The only reason, I'll tell you in a minute. If you never really understood what Gamergate was to begin with, here's a brief refresher. In the fall of 2014, under the premise that they were angry at unethical games journalists, a lie that persists today, thousands of people in the games community began to systematically harass, heckle, threaten, and dox several outspoken feminist women in their midst, few of whom were journalists. The harassment occurred under the social media hashtag Gamergate, which is still a hotbed of debate and anti-feminist resentment today. So I think why that was important is I started to look at what Breitbart's involvement was, because Debbie's mentioning Steve Bannon, and Breitbart picked up this story of Gamergate, and the way they angle it is the fact that journalists were reporting about games in an unethical way. So it's all about journalism and how they're reporting games, and it's not about misogyny and women, when really it was. So that's why this article says a lie that persists today. So they made out that it was all about how they're reporting on games that they were upset about, but it was a systematic attack on women and feminism, this harass, heckle, threaten, but it was couched in the language that, because they always have a story, the opposite side story, and that it's couched in that the idea that it was the way gamers were being targeted as in journalism, in newspapers. It was an anti-game kind of anti-gamers generally target. So men gamers were getting upset with so-called journalists misreporting about games and what they mean. And I don't exactly know the details of that, but presumably the damaging effect of games or something that was anti-gamers. And they make out that's the reason they started Gamergate, but really it's a far right anti-women thing. And then he used some of that at Breitbart, the way he's interviewing people in it, as a mechanism to gather these men that are misogynistic and right-wing. So it's an underlying political overtones to it. That's why it's so dangerous. It changed the whole shape of the internet and the power of it with this Twitter hashtag. That's what I was getting from that.
Yeah, and of course Gamergate was saying that the Gamergate were framing themselves as fighting for ethics.
Yes.
Yeah, that's right. And the games, they were saying, the Gamergates were saying the journalists were destroying what they're trying to do. They said that that's what the Gamergates were saying, that they were destroying what they're doing, saying they were destroying it.
And then this article makes the point that a lot of the women they picked on were not even journalists, few of whom were actually journalists, so it's nothing about journalism. And then it goes on about misogyny and harassment, which have been problems for years on the internet, in the community of gaming.
I think we can close with that paragraph. Do you want to?
Can I make a point?
What did you say, Natalie?
Can I make a point?
Okay, go ahead.
Just to point out that I think that Gamergate polarized two groups of people in the world and in the movement, those who are here, those who've left, and that it will be the same groups for Sunday law. And the subject is about gender, sexism. I just wanted to point that out about what Game About does.
Okay, no problem. Did you want to wrap up the last paragraph and then we close? The one that you were quoting.
Sorry, did you just say something to me?
No, sorry. I was saying if Emma want to wrap up the last paragraph that she was quoting.
Oh, you mean harassment and misogyny?
Harassment, yep.
Harassment and misogyny had been problems in the community for years before this. The deep resentment and anger toward women that powered Gamergate percolated for years on internet forums. Robert Evans, a journalist who specializes in extremist communities and the host of the Behind the Bastards podcast, described Gamergate to me as partly organic and partly born out of decades-long campaigns by white supremacists and extremists to recruit heavily from online forums.
I remember reading this paragraph and trying to understand it.
Okay. What I'm seeing is that, well, should I try and explain it? Do you want to, Sammoy?
No, you go ahead.
I'm saying is, I guess hatred against women and harassment to them have been problems in the gaming community for years.
Yeah.
There was a deep resentment and anger toward women, and this was fueling or powering Gamergate. Percolating, I think, means simmering. When you percolate coffee on the stove, I think that's simmering for years on internet forums. So it's an underlying undertone, which I know Leon pointed out by the women are half dressed. The whole way the gaming industry is, it's violent, toxic masculinity, basically. And it's so dangerous the way it raises men to be warriors and put down women that they're sex objects, as Leon said. And the whole ethos of it is just misogynistic, anti-women. And this journalist who specializes in extreme communities and this host of this podcast, he describes Gamergate as partly organic and partly born out of decades. So it's partly organic in the sense that it's grown naturally out of that environment of gaming because it's misogynistic and anti-women anyway. So Gamergate's come out of that, but it's also born out of decades-long campaign. It's organized. It's not just naturally, organically grown out of it. Somebody cultivated it. So I guess we could say it's kind of nature, but it's also cultivation. It's been cultivated by white supremacists and extremists in order to recruit people of like mind on these forums. So they want to meet white supremacist, misogynistic males so they can make a political noise. And that's why they're linking that to what happened at the Capitol building, because it was predominantly white male, white right-wing extremists.
Emma, do you think that Steve Bannon was instrumental in doing that?
Do I think that what was?
Steve Bannon.
Yeah, so what I was trying to look at the link between, I haven't read everything, I just started reading Breitbart, but what he seems to be doing is promoting this angle that journalism, it's nothing to do with women, obviously, but I think Breitbart, one of the articles said that Breitbart was used heavily to promote this whole Gamergate thing in 2015 before the election. And so he was actively involved in picking up the story of Gamergate and promoting it from the wrong angle. That they were justified in getting upset. And he even quotes a woman on it in one of his articles as a woman talking about how, that gaming isn't sexist and that women are treated okay there. And why should we all start, jumping up and down about that? Why are these other women jumping up and down about that? So he's reporting the unethical journalistic side of it and saying that's what it was all about, basically. But I don't know how much but I think it was a political maneuvering, yeah, that we didn't see at the time. It's very interesting, I think, the whole thing, that it's 2014, of course.
Interesting. Thank you for explaining that. Understand it better now. So I think time is up, right? Dubai, because it's 11:34.
You got about 10 minutes because you did start 10 minutes later.
Oh,
Or you can close now. It's up to you.
I want to close now. I want to close now. I don't want to read more of this, unless you guys want to read more. You guys want to read more? Sorry.
I think it is interesting. I mean, there's a lot of the article. I haven't read it all because just reading it now, but we seem to be going into the things that can be done to bring more controls on the internet, and how this is an internet warfare problem, and it's really changed the shape of the internet. The fact that people are allowed to get away with this violence and harassment online, which then is manifesting in the flesh on the 6th of January. So I think it just buys into our argument of the whole thing being an information war. And this really escalated the information war in 2014, Gamergate. So, and I think that's what we need to see from it, how crucial that is, and how people are now calling for controls on the internet because of it. And it really did mobilize all those people, because those people in their past would never have been able to get together and do that storming of the Capitol building in the way that they did if all this hadn't been happening on the internet. To get
Emma, who's the war against? With you talking about information war in regards to Gamergate?
With the Gamergate thing, it seems to me it's a right-wing mobilization. So we've seen that how the right wing has been able to mobilize on January 6th because of this coming together of people with like mind, misogynistic white supremacy. We know now it's more than white supremacy; it's even more detailed than that. But this whole thing on the internet of allowing people to do this harassment, of coming together and on a political level, as it seems to have enabled them to do that, what they did, this right-wing, left-wing war that we see. I don't know, what's your thoughts?
I just wanted to know your definition of information war with regards to Gamergate, and yeah, that's a good explanation.
I'm only just understanding it now. Thank you, Sammoy. I think this is good discussion.
Sorry, what did you last said, Emma?
No, I'm saying I'm just coming to understand it more from this. So thank you for that, for doing this topic. Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah, no problem. I understand it more too.
Detail, yeah.
Okay, guys, we're gonna pray to close. Can I have Natalie, can you pray to close, please, if that's okay?
that me?
Yep, Natalie.
Okay, let's pray, Neil, where you can. Dear Almighty God, we thank you for this blessed Sabbath. We thank you for this very important subject that we are studying here today. We pray, Lord, that we will take it and meditate upon it, as we know it is the test of the Sunday law. We pray, Lord, for all your members around the world, that they are comforted and reflective upon the message of the hour, the elder test and Advent are given us. And we thank you that we are part of this movement, and we pray that we will have courage and faith to take up our role and move forward to glorify your name. We thank you in the precious holy name of Jesus. Amen.
Amen. Over to you now, Debray.
Thank you, Sammoy. Can I just ask the person who's recording to stop recording?